The news this weekend came out from Steve Conroy, the Boston Herald, that the Bruins will not have a captain in 2025-26. They will be, I believe, the only team, maybe one of only two teams in the NHL this year that will not have a captain. I think Columbus didn't have one. Boone Jenner was out for most of the year. So maybe that was it. But the Bruins are not going to have a captain in 25-26. And I know that became kind of I don't want to say a hot button issue, but something that Bruins fans were talking about quite a bit after the Brad Marchand trade. That was kind of the old guard. Marchand was the last one that was on the 2011 Stanley Cup winning team. And so without him there, who becomes the captain? It was a very natural kind of chain of command and succession plan. Right? It was Chara for so long, and then it became Bergeron, who had been one of his alternates for years and years. And then from there, the only one that made sense was Marchand, right? Because he had played with both those guys. He had been on the Stanley Cup team. Now you take Marchand out. And where do you go? Of course, the debate came between David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy. And I'll get into more of who I feel it should have been in a second. But just the fact that the Bruins are ready to roll in there with no captain might seem like it's pro sports. Who needs a captain? All that shit, right? But what it does show me is those of you who are still thinking like, well, if this and this go right, they should be in the playoff picture. I think we're missing it here. I think by seeing that they're not even willing to elect a captain to this team shows you they're not ready to be a playoff team. They're not ready to be back there. They don't have the talent. They don't have the depth. I doubt they have the coaching. And right now, I think there's a serious leadership problem with the Boston Bruins at every level. So that goes from the owner's box down into the locker room. I think there was questions about their leadership the last 2 years. Would I say Brad Marchand was a bad captain? I don't know if I'd go that far, but there's a lot more drama around the Bruins this year than there had been in a long time, and he was the captain. And you had a coach that was reaming out the captain who also couldn't trust his GM or his assistant coaches because he didn't get to pick them. And all of a sudden, there's just this complete leadership clusterfuck within the Boston Bruins organization. And now you go into this year, got a whole new bottom six. Right? Whole new bottom six. You're trying to get some defensemen who were hurt last year back into the fold. You've got your third longest tenured player is the goalie, who was the holdout, who was a huge reason why your season started the way that it did. And now you're picking between David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy, and you can't pick either one of them. So right now, you're going into a season with a new bottom six, a new coach who has never been a head coach in the NHL before, and you can't even pick a captain. Like, seriously, we got a GM who we know is not good enough to be a GM for a team of this caliber. We don't know if they have an NHL head coach, and we don't know if they have one guy who can be the one who sets the standard for this team. That's not good. Like, that's not a good sign. I know for a lot of you couldn't give a shit less who's got the C on their uniform. And it does seem like a frivolous thing for a bunch of grown men, professional athletes who are making millions of dollars. But let's call it what it is. They are literally a ship without a captain. They are a ship without a captain. A ship literally without a captain. They're just completely rudderless. And therefore, the one that is the alpha of this organization, the two that are the alphas of this organization who have the balls and have the power, are Cam Neely and Don Sweeney. And look where that's gotten us. And there's no standard being set. Chara set a standard. Bergeron set a standard. The guys who didn't have the captaincy set a standard. Right? Whether it was Krejci or Ferentz or Tuca or any, name these guys, man, throughout the years. Torrey Krug. These guys set a standard. Right now, the Bruins don't have a standard. And they're proving to you that once again this year, they're not going to have a standard. When it comes to who I would pick as the captain, if you had told me at any point, at the beginning half of last year, I would have been like, yeah, it's probably Charlie McAvoy. That makes sense. Physical defenseman when he's on his game. Been here a while. Played his college hockey in Boston, American, and whatever you believe in that. Like, I think Don Sweeney values that, unfortunately. But I tell you what, the last couple of months of that season, after the trade deadline, when things were just shit, I changed my tune 1,000%. Watching the last month and a half of that Bruins season, when Charlie McAvoy was out, their team had been traded, and they were one of the worst teams in the NHL, I came to the conclusion that David Pastrnak should be the captain. David Pastrnak should be the captain of the Boston Bruins. And I know there are a lot of Bruins fans who want to push back on that. They say, he's a finesse player. You got to have him, but he's a finesse player. He's not a captain. That's not what Bergeron was. That's not what Chara was. That's not what Ray Bourque was. And you see it around the league. There are a lot more of these finesse guys who are just the face of the franchise, so they become the captain. We see that with Austin Matthews in Toronto, unseating a guy who was much older than him and John Tavares, but saying, hey, this guy's the face of our franchise. We're going where he's going. He's going to be our captain. Whether that was a good move, I don't know. I don't think he was a good captain for Team USA. But David Pastrnak is your franchise. He's your guy. And when things were all going to shit last year, and nobody else could score for you, what David Pastrnak did was he factored in on 13 straight Bruins goals, something that nobody had done in the NHL in 26 years. And he became more vocal. And if you think that the European thing's a problem, his English is perfect. There's no problem with that, man. No problem connecting with these guys. But he's lazy, turns the puck over. I don't see it that way, man. I see all the great scorers in this league have something of a turnover problem. But when the going really got tough, David Pastrnak did not mail it in. He continued to be one of the best offensive players in the league. Oh, yeah, he elevated his teammates too. And that was a knock on Pasta early in his career. I don't think you can make that knock whatsoever these days. Morgan Geekie is a 33-goal scorer who's now going to make $5.5 million a year because of 88. Solely because of David Pastrnak. The kid's got a nice shot. Geekie does. Nice shot. But 65% of his goals came from David Pastrnak. Pavel Zacha was a first-line center in the National Hockey League this year. A guy who's a middle six winger became a number one center because of David Pastrnak. He makes the whole team better. And when nobody else, like I'm talking literally nobody else can score and produce points, David Pastrnak was doing it. It's like 4 straight games where David Pastrnak was in on every single goal the Bruins scored. I don't know if he could do as many pull-ups as Zdeno Chara. He's not going to lay out the checks that Zdeno Chara did. But to me, that's leadership. It's not a rah-rah speech. It doesn't always have to be that. In fact, Bergeron and Chara were not that. They were guys who led by example. This is leading by example. David Pastrnak leads by example. When everything else is going wrong, David Pastrnak is going right. And I think he is a deserved captain of the Boston Bruins. For sure. Let's talk about Charlie McAvoy. I think we need to have an uncomfortable conversation about Charlie McAvoy. And that is, my man's in his prime, the prime of his career right now, going to be 28 this year. And I think he's not where a lot of us thought he was going to be. I thought that by the time he hit the prime of his career, he would be a Norris Trophy candidate just about every one of those prime years. It hasn't been that. Finished top 5 in the Norris voting back in 2021 and then 2022, ages 23 and 24. And we thought, man, this could be a next kind of Ray Bourque here. This could be a next kind of Zdeno Chara. I think we all thought that after those 2 seasons where he finished top 5 in the Norris Trophy voting, we had the next great franchise defenseman that the Boston Bruins have always been known for. And he's a good top defenseman still. But is he one of those franchise guys? I don't know, man. Not for a team that's going to make deep playoff runs if he continues going the way he does now. He's played 75 games in a season once in his career, one time. And I'll give him a pass on 2020-21. He played 51 of the 56 games. But there's always something lingering. He's had a couple of shoulder surgeries at this point in his career, and he's only 27. And he only played 50 games last year. And furthermore, what's more? We see him play for Team USA in the Four Nations, and he is throwing that frame around, being one of the most physical guys in the entire tournament, was probably the best player on the ice in that first Canada-USA game. And all the Bruins fans are sitting there thinking, why can't we have that? Where did that Charlie McAvoy go? There probably needs to be a mindset change for Charlie McAvoy. And I almost don't even blame him for it. He's had to take on so much of the load the last couple of years. That defense core has just gotten thinner and thinner and thinner since he was a top 5 Norris vote getter. And I think he probably thinks, I can't take as many chances. I can't shoot as much. I can't throw as many body checks. I can't give up 2-on-1s because of it. I can't pinch in. His game was not the same when Jim Montgomery came in and Joe Sacco wasn't going to do anything to fix it. That's a big assignment for Marco Sturm. Year one, can you get the best out of Charlie McAvoy? Can you make him a Tasmanian devil of sorts again? Because when he's playing with some reckless abandon and throwing that frame around the ice and laying perfect body checks on Connor McDavid, that's when he's at his best. That guy can be a captain of a team. The ones I've seen, the Charlie McAvoy I've seen the last 2 seasons, isn't that. He's still a good defenseman. Don't get me wrong. And there have been flashes. He's had some good games, right? But it hasn't been put together the way it was 3 and 4 years ago, 4 and 5 years ago. He was kind of on pace with Adam Fox, and we thought these are going to be the 2 best in the Eastern Conference for years to come. Adam Fox ascended. Adam Fox ascended and descended. Adam Fox won a Norris, and now people are saying he's washed. Charlie McAvoy hasn't even gotten to that. I think it's time we kind of start to talk uncomfortably about Charlie McAvoy not living up to what we thought he was going to be at this point of his career. Does he have time to turn that around? Absolutely. He's going to be 28. Like, we're still talking prime years. I'm talking about this with some sort of, some sort of urgency, because he is in his prime. Because he can still be an elite defenseman in this league, I think. Right now, he's pretty good. Elite might be a step too far. Might be just a step too far for Charlie McAvoy right now. And I think that's probably why he's not the captain of the Boston Bruins as we take it today. He did have something to say about not having a captain in this season. And by the way, for whatever this is worth for the hockey historians, the last team to win a Stanley Cup without a captain was the 1972 Boston Bruins. But he said, yeah, we're just trying to get the guys together. We're trying to get a good message out there. And I'm just like, yeah, this team has no rudder, no direction. And maybe they will tank without trying to tank. But Charlie McAvoy needs to get better. David Pastrnak needs to be the captain. And that's where we start. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Am I being too hard on Charlie McAvoy? Who do you think should be the captain of this team if you had to pick a captain for this team? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We are still on the fast track with those subscribers. This summer has been great for the channel. So like, subscribe, find us here on YouTube every weekday so we start to get back into the regular schedule, live at noon Eastern time, and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. So check out the other videos on the channel. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week.